Hey guys, how's it going? Just thought I'd come on and talk to you for a little bit. Actually, I'm going to talk to you a little bit as I am a self-published author. I wanted to talk a little bit about what I'm doing right now because I am in the middle, well, not in the middle, at the end of a trilogy for my books. So I have mentioned these before, the Invaris Chronicles, which starts with the project and then goes to the Runaway. Um, are my self-published books. It's crazy. The project has been a book that I've been working on since I was probably 18. I'm in my 30s now. Obviously, it went through many revisions and countless changes through the years, but eventually it became this book, which I am very proud of. It is a sci-fi fantasy. Do I want to say thriller? I don't know. There's like some mystery and action for sure, but I don't know if it's exactly a thriller. I think thriller is more like, jump scare, you know. But there's action, there's adventure. A lot of it takes place in this city that is extremely technologically advanced, where our main character, our protagonist, Vance, gets stuck and used in human experimentation to become a super soldier. Okay, so that's the premise. I know I've mentioned this in some other videos, but I just wanted to recap if somebody is seeing this video for the first time. And if that interests you, there will be links below where you can purchase these books on your own. I know the first book is currently on like Kindle Unlimited or something, or it will be, I think, tomorrow. Is it the 5th today? Yes. Yeah. No, it's the 6th today. Okay, so it should be today. Where it will, if you are part of the Kindle Unlimited thing, you can get it for free. So if that interests you at all. So this one came out last year, and it was really fun to put myself out there. I am still an amateur author, I would say. I know I have so much to learn, but I was just grateful to use my God-given talents and my creativity to put something out there in the world. Very exciting. And then, of course, we've got book 2, which came out earlier this year. This one is it's funny because I feel like so much happens in this book. I can't believe how small it is. It's still like over 200 pages. It's honestly just shy of 300 pages. So how many pages is this bad boy? I guess this is almost 400. Why does it look so much thicker? I don't know. I guess it doesn't matter. I'm like my brain is doing math and I'm like, okay. But anyway, so this one came out later. This one, of course, follows up Vance. The runaway should kind of give you a hint. Vance runs away. Okay, that's not a huge hint, not a huge surprise. And of course, he ends up going home and finding out that things are maybe not how he left it. And by the way, this color palette, this is an old version. Okay, this is like one of the first versions. I just haven't gotten a newer version yet. The color palette is not this. I don't know why initially I chose yellow. It's like a gray that matches this because it's going to be like a gradient of colors. It's going to be black, gray, and then white. So anyway, it's not going to be yellow. Okay, my version is right now until I get myself another one. But these are the first 2 books in the series. This is Vance on the cover. This is his sister Tamara on this cover. And we are going into the 3rd book. Actually, I've been working on the 3rd book for a while. It kind of got pushed aside because when I have something to do, when I have a deadline, and tell me, y'all, writers, I know you do the same thing. When I have a deadline, I'm immediately like, you know what? I would rather write anything else. I would rather write the prequel. I would rather write the next book in the series. I would rather write whatever, immediate distraction. And actually, I mean, initially I had thought to kind of pause between the trilogy, between the first and second one, and release the prequel because I don't know why. That was an insane thought. But it was a thought that I had, so I did work on the prequel for a while. And then I was like, no, 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 what are you doing? Finish the trilogy. So we are at work. Okay. Um, it, I'm not at this point satisfied with it, so I don't know. My deadline, the date when it should come out is supposed to be August 31st. Obviously, we are now in July. I don't know. It might get pushed back a little bit, maybe in September, but it's supposed to come out around that time. Being a self-published author is nice in that I can push back deadlines. I am the only one holding myself accountable. But I do want to do it. Like, let's freaking go. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to push myself forward with that. So the big thing that I have learned about myself over this writing process is that I often struggle with, and maybe you guys can relate to this, but we got to learn, right? But my biggest problem is that I often struggle with, how do I explain it? Like, consistency, I guess is the word that I'm looking for. So like, sometimes I will write a scene and I'm like, yes, good. And then I continue writing the story from that scene. But then like I repeat something that already was mentioned over here, or, that didn't need to happen in that way, or that character's emotion didn't quite fit, even though at the moment it felt right, like stuff like that. And so now that I'm finished writing the third book. Obviously, I've been finished with the first draft for a while. We're honestly on like the second, third draft at this point, okay? But I'm starting to see where I had been so focused on one part, because there's three parts. The third book is going to be much longer than, well, I think it's probably going to be about the length of the first book at least, where it's almost 400 pages. And there's three parts to it because it's just very separated. Each big event has to be separated by a part. It's the only way it makes sense in my brain. And that's a popular thing to do now anyway. Susan Collins does that with her Hunger Games prequels and things like that. But anyway, so I find when I finish one part and it's clean and I'm like, ooh, mwah, all I really need to do is minor edits at this point. Then I move on to the next part and it's like a train wreck. And I'm like, what was I thinking when I wrote this part? Like, did I consider anything that I wrote in the first part when I wrote the second part? This is insane. So like for me, I'm definitely learning that writing down character motivations, I mean, I do that, but like making sure that they're consistent throughout and their reactions are consistent throughout is a big thing. And making sure that events are like consistent throughout. Not events, like what they talk about. You know what I mean? Because like sometimes I'll have this one character and they mention something to somebody. And then later they're like, wait, how did you know that? And I'm like, that's because I was not paying attention to what I was writing the first time. You know what I mean? Like, or the first draft, something got left behind, and being very careful with a fine tooth comb, finding all of those inconsistencies that need to be cleaned up. Now, in these first two books, I had cleaned them up a lot because I spent a lot more time on these than I did on the last one, just because that's just how it happened. Initially, these were supposed to be one book, but because this book became so big, I split it into the two books. Um, so that's why The Runaway didn't take as long to clean up as the project. I mean, as the third book, which is going to be called The Forsaken. So The Runaway, the project, The Runaway, and The Forsaken. That's the trilogy. Um, so these two were already pretty much done. They'd been read by other people. They had gone through the gamut of editing. They had gone through many a draft, and so they were ready to go. The Runaway just needed a couple of changes to make sure that it read well as a standalone book, and I wanted to change a couple of things that happened to a couple of characters, which so that it would lead in easier to the third book. But the third book, alas, I left this as a little train wreck for me to fix. So I'm hoping that I can have it all cleaned up. I've really started the process of cleaning up. The problem is like, here's the other thing, is that sometimes you'll get an idea and you'll be like, oh, that's a brilliant idea. Like I got this idea for this one character who I just felt like she didn't have enough to do and she wasn't in the action enough. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to have her be a hostage at some point, right? And it makes sense in the story, but okay. Um, I'm going to have her be a hostage with this other guy because it was going to just be the other guy. And then I was like, no, let's drag her into the hostage situation. And then I was sitting, and then here I am months later reading it over and being like, why did I do that to her? That is, first of all, it's completely unnecessary. It just adds more nonsense into something that's already a lot, okay? Because a lot of things have to happen in this final book. It's the climax, okay, of all the things that are going to happen. So I have to end up going back and fixing all of what I ruined. No, I'm just kidding. I have to go take back that idea so that it's still the one guy is the hostage, but now she has a different role. I've given her a different role that fits more with her character, which I wish I had thought of at the beginning. And she is a younger character, so I don't want her to be put into like major harm's way. And it wouldn't make sense that she was put in major harm's way considering how many people are kind of looking out for her. So, though it was like a fun little detour, it's like really unnecessary for any character growth whatsoever. And I just feel like it's better for her. She has a younger sister, for her to stay with her sister and for them together to do some things that are great for their character growth and for readers to kind of get more of where they're coming from and for them actually to do something that's meaningful. So there you go. I don't know if anybody has ever, my fellow writers, what are some things that you struggle with in drafts? Do you often find yourself writing unnecessary scenes and then having to go back and take them out? Or is it the consistency thing where you're like, you have multiple drafts going and, for some reason something got left behind from another draft and you're having to go through and figure that out. I mean, that's what it's all about. That's what it's, and also giving it to other people to read, so that they can clean it up too, because you need another set of eyes on that, you know what I'm saying? Because my eyes will only see so much. Eventually I'm just like blurring everything out, you know what I mean? I'm like, I have no idea. I think this is fine. Girl, you need another set of eyes on that. I always find that I miss things. It's so funny. But that is what it is. This is why we need more people watching. Um so anyway, and I want to just say, like, this is me talking about a book that is completely, well, not completely unfinished, but on its way to being finished and will be cleaned up and will be readable. Like, I know right now you're probably like, "Oh my gosh, what is this girl talking about? Is she really an author?" Yes, I'm not, I'm an amateur, but I figure it's fun to talk about things that you're working on and how your process works. Like for me, I just like I'll write a full draft and then, go back and then I start chopping it up. And sometimes in my chopping of things, you forget things or you change things and you change it back and then you change them a different way and then you change them. You know what I mean? Like I usually have multiple drafts and multiple ideas, and like a lot of those bigger ideas change too. Like I had initially a system of the world that had twin gods. So one of them created there's these, the original people of the world were the Astani and the Narzenzi, and originally there was two gods that created one of each, and they were known as the twin gods, and one of them created the Astani and one of them created the Narzenzi, and they worked together to kind of take care of the world. Well, I decided I didn't want that. I wanted a monotheistic world. So eventually I erased that idea, but instead of just eliminating the idea altogether, I made it something that was part of their history that was lost. They at one time knew that they were a monotheistic world, and then that got lost over time and through history and through some certain horrible events. And they believed in I don't know what that would be called, duotheistic world. Anyway, a polytheistic world, I think, is more when there's more than one. But then they believed in more than one, and they kind of lost all knowledge of what was real. And that does come back in the books later, and more will be revealed in the prequel about how and why that happened. But that's what I wanted to do, and that's a big change, and there's a lot of fixer-uppers that need to do. But the nice thing about making it part of the lore, that like they lost the history, is that it's a lot easier to clean up, because it's like, okay, now they're learning it. They're learning that things have changed slowly over time, instead of it all being like dumped on them at once, and or me just completely wiping the idea, because I think it makes it more interesting and makes their culture and their civilization and their fall of civilization and rise of new civilizations more realistic. Because in our own world, except for obviously Christianity, which is the one true religion, or Judaism, which also serve, the same God, they believe different things but same God. Religions do come and go. Cults come and go, religions come and go, things like that. And truth can be lost. And though in this world there is one truth, it was covered up for a long time, and it comes out again over time at kind of the right time. So I thought that was a fun thing to do. I don't know if you guys have ever done that. I like my world building to be big and bombastic. I am very inspired by Tolkien, especially, the Silmarillion. I love the different Valar and things like that, and even the Valar and the Maiar and the, all these different like spiritual characters. And my world shares a lot of that as well, because I love that. And it's reality. Our world also has an unseen realm. So I think it's fun to kind of play with that in a fictional way. So anyway, but yeah, I think it's hard for me to so right now I'm in the process of focusing on consistency in my book and really reading through it, reading it out loud, making sure that each part perfectly coincides, making sure that each character's motivation at the end makes perfect sense. What are they doing? Why are they doing it? Like I had like one chapter that I had to completely cut because for whatever reason at that time I wanted to make a character seem more sympathetic to a certain situation that had happened. I don't want to give away spoilers, but there was she likes to she's kind of a spy. I'll say that. She's kind of a spy, and she's not ashamed or afraid to blackmail someone. We'll just put it that way. And something got found out that was potentially caused by the blackmailing, and she started feeling really sorry over this and even became upset. And so as I read through it again, knowing the character, who I know her very well, I'm not saying that she's heartless, and it wouldn't not make sense for her to feel sorry, but for her to express it didn't make sense, even to people that she trusts. And so I had to actually go back and decide. I went back and forth about her character and how her character had been portrayed this whole time. Well, her character is really tough as nails to everybody except for her love interest. And it doesn't make sense for her with her worldview, with her harder outer shell, that she would ever feel sorry for blackmailing somebody that she doesn't know or have any attachment to. Like, she would feel sorry if she blackmailed her love interest, and she would express that to him. And she, knowing her, she would never do that because she loves him too much. It's the one thing, the one soft spot she has. But like, and for the companions that she's walking with and that she at that point in the story has come to care for to some degree, she would feel sorry to an extent. I don't know if she would express it, but she would feel sorry, far more guilt, we'll say that, than she would for anybody else. But this guy, whom she has no attachment to and needs to use him for to fight this other guy because he has a special ability, she is not going to feel guilty about blackmailing him. You know what I'm saying? Like, she sees it as, well, I'm protecting my own, I am protecting myself, and I'm protecting my interests. And so what if this guy suffers and his girlfriend suffers and whoever else suffers? Like, it'll be brief suffering. Eventually it'll be fine. You know what I mean? She can rationalize stuff like that. So as I read that over, I was like, no, cut. Like, even if it doesn't make her, like, even if she becomes an unlikable character, that's okay, because I know that I like her, and nobody is always likable. It doesn't make sense. And she has consistently been unlikable. That's her thing. She's unlikable, pretty much, like I said, the only time she's maybe likable is when she's with her mans, who is very the opposite of her. He softens her up, which is great, but not all the way. You know what I'm saying? She still is tough, and she has her beliefs, and she's not going to waver that for anybody. And the same thing had to happen with the villain, because I have a tendency that I want those redemptive arcs to happen, right? And there's nothing wrong with a redemptive arc. In fact, I love a redemptive arc, and I love to use them. But I think it's also okay when a character does not have them. Okay. Like, Kylo Ren should never have had a redemptive arc, and I stand by that. Why am I bringing why am I bringing the Star Wars into it? I don't know, but I stand by that. So the main villain of this series, at the end, I wanted him to have a moment of not sorrow or like not being sorry, but for him to be a little more humanized, if you will, even though he's not human. Okay. He's Narsensi. But I wanted him to have that moment of like connection. And like he does to a degree with the protagonist, where they can see, because they are kind of like mirror images of each other, just in different ways. They both suffered abuse at the hands of people who should have protected them. They have both been like kind of put in this experimental place where they're basically being used as tools, not as people. Um, and they've both lost and been unable to protect people that they love. But the difference between them being is that Vance, the protagonist, has chosen to continue to protect people, to continue to try to do his best and to serve others. He doesn't want to be the villain, right? Whereas Kaman, the villain, wants to be the villain. He's like, this is how you survive. You take no prisoners, you know what I mean? And that's who he is at the core. He is so very broken, but he doesn't want to change. And he kind of revels in that brokenness, in that he feels like, well, let's see, one of the characters quote like says about Kaman that he was broken and he remade himself, but not in a way that is stable, you know. So that's who he is. He also has a host of other issues, but we don't need to go into all that. um so they're basically mirror images of each other. And at one point, you know, Vance does try to relate to him. He tries to bring him back from the void and keep him from doing something that will harm many people. But and Kaman has that moment of like, you know, like a faint, kind of like, sure, you know. But then he goes back on it and he does exactly what he intended to do. But I initially wanted to soften him quite a bit and make him seem more tortured and sad than he really is. And I had to go back and change that because he's not, he is afraid of other people and afraid of his circumstances and afraid of what he has to do, but he will never show that. Kind of like with Brekla, the elite spy girl. She will never show her cards. He will also never show his cards. But unlike him, he doesn't have anyone to show his cards to. You know, Brekla has her mans, and you can see her, you know, more sympathetic side through their interactions. For him, zero, nil, nada. Um, well, I guess that's not entirely true. He does have moments where you can kind of see the real him, but it's in his internal dialogue. So there is a part of him that it's not that he wants to be good, but it's that he's afraid of failing what he thinks he has to do. And it's harder to explain. But anyway, he has moments that humanize him, if you will. And you're like, oh, I feel for this guy. But he can't have those moments out loud with people because that would totally break down his walls. And eventually, maybe that could be something for him in the future, in future sequels and so forth. But it's not him now. It couldn't be him now. Um, so yeah, it's just it, you know, I think the thing for me is writing is such a developmental process because it's so much of me, right, growing and being like, oh, I don't like this, oh, I like this, oh, this is good, no, this isn't good, you know. And I think that's what I always love so much about writing, is that it's never just like, okay, I wrote it, I'm done, and that's it. It is a constantly growing and changing thing, just like I grow and change. It's so beautiful, and the creative process is so awesome. And so I find that, you know, my writing was very flat before, but now it comes to life in a much different way when I'm able to consider these things, when I'm able to think more deeply about character motivations, even if, yes, I want this thing to happen. I want the redemptive arc, or I want the deep emotional conversation, or I want whatever, right? I want this breakthrough to happen here. But you can't force it either. It has to come naturally with the development of the character, because humans, people, are not built like that. We are not built to suddenly, you know, be like, ta da, I'm changed, I'm different. I mean, it can happen. Don't get me wrong. Okay. But like, you can't suddenly be like, I'm a brooding, upset person, but now I'm going to share all of my emotions, you know. You need to give that guy some time and some people to trust. You know what I mean? And maybe it still won't happen. It depends on your character and what you want them to do. Okay. They might be mystery man the whole time. Who knows? Until the very end, right? But, you know, I really like that, learning that, you know what I mean? And certainly a lot of what has helped me also, and maybe you also experience this, is reading what, how other authors write, what they do, hearing from their process and how they process things. Freaking love that. I have a whole notebook full of ideas and character motivations and different things like that. I love using that because I love writing on paper. Um, it's just I hate looking at screens. I look at screens all day for work. I want to be writing on paper. So that's what I do. I write down those things. I write down like what is their process, what is their character arc, what is their, whatever, right? What is their, where are they going? So, I really love that. The other thing that I also struggle with, I want to say this, is like time. Like it's so funny because it's like I'm like, okay, how much time has passed here? I have no idea because I'm writing it and I'm just going for it. Has it been days? Has it been months? I have no idea. And I have to figure that out. Sometimes I have distinct, okay, here, this is 3 years later, or this is 3 months later, or this is whatever, right? Like I can plan for that period of time to pass. But if I'm not thinking about it, I'm like, uh-oh, does this make any sense? Or like, these characters are in this one country, but they need to get to this other country. And I have to think about how many days would it take? How many days would it take them to get to that country? And what kind of vehicle are they? These are the things that I don't think about that I am learning to think about more because for my readers, I want it to make sense to y'all what's happening. And thankfully, in the Runaway, in the project, there's basically no traveling. It's very minimal. And in the Runaway, there is traveling, but only for like 1 or 2 times. In the Forsaken, there is multiple instances of traveling because there is a war going on in one country, but there's alliances in another country that need to be met. So it's not a lot of back and forth because I wouldn't do that to y'all, but there is back and forth, especially near the end when there is an absolute emergency situation happens where they have to get from point B to point A real fast. Thankfully, they have a car. But yeah, I was like trying to like I was like, wait a second. I was reading through it and I was like, wait a second, how did Vance get from like it's okay, he's really far north, but how did he get all the way north to the far north where the Narzenzi live that fast? Like that can't happen. Days had to have passed for him to do that. So now I'm having to factor in days, and if an army is on the move because there's war happening, then how long is it going to take for the army to get there and Vance to get there and them to get there? You know what I mean? Like now I'm like, whoa, whoa. Now I actually have to think about this stuff. Okay. Well, I mean, I've been thinking about it, but not seriously, and now I have to. But see, this is why I have people look at my stuff and be like, you know what? How did this happen? And I'm like, you know what? I didn't think about it, so now I have to. It's a good thing. So, think about that. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's all. I just wanted to kind of chit chat about my writing journey, about my published works and my soon to be published works. The Invarus Chronicles is the trilogy itself. So the project, The Runaway, and The Forsaken, which will be out hopefully the end of August or mid September, depending on how quickly I work on this. And after that, there is going to be a duology, I think. I don't think it's going to be a trilogy. I think it's going to be a duology. I think that's all I have in me is a duology for that series. But and then I also have two prequels in the works, which have actually been in the work for years. They just have been sitting and they need a lot of editing, but we'll get there. And then I have some side projects along with it, which are technically prequels, but they're not. They might end up either being small standalones or they're going to be uh like mini books inside a bigger book, you know what I mean? Like mini stories inside a bigger book, just about different accounts of different characters and kind of what they went through in their corner of the world, and kind of looking back on Vance's ancestry, on Tasik's origins. Tasik is the head of the elites, who are the spy organization. Um, just fun little things like that because I really enjoy that. And there will be another book after the duology as well, which will hopefully wrap up the whole thing. I have a lot. This world of Inverus has been a lot of fun. The universe of this story has been a lot of fun for me to work on. Like I said, it's been something that I've been working on for years. I never had any idea I would make it this big, and that I would go this far with all these stories. But the thing for me is writing is cathartic. Writing is part of therapy for me. It's therapeutic for my soul. And, I do believe that it's a God given talent that God has given to me. I was inspired when I hated writing when I was a teenager, but after I read um, The Lord of the Rings, I was inspired to start writing. I had no idea writing could be so fun, and that worlds could be so big and all of those things. Tolkien really inspired me, and it was a talent awakened in me during that time, which is great. And it's always been, I never imagined getting published. I really didn't. Like, I looked into it quite a bit, but it always seemed too intimidating and too expensive. Um, so I never imagined being published. So I truly have just been writing for fun for most of my life. But when I found out that I could self-publish, then it became like, oh, let's do this. God didn't give me this talent to just hide it. Let me give it to the world. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying I'm like some great, amazing author, but maybe it's something you would enjoy. I don't know. If you would love to purchase it, I would appreciate it so much. Your support means everything to me. And please feel free to, rate it on Goodreads or on Amazon or whatever. If you do get it, I'd love to hear your reviews. But either way, this is just a passion of mine, something that I love to do. I have no expectations of fame, no expectations of at all, really, except for to share with you. Um, I would love to hear if anybody out there is a writer. I'd love to hear about your writing journeys and maybe some things that have helped you with things like, planning out travel time for your characters or anything like that. What are your struggles? What are your favorite parts? My favorite part is world building. Oh, girl, let's go. Let's world build and character development. Those are my two, I think, my strongest points and my favorite points. So those are my favorite things. I hate writing battle dialogue and battle like scenes because I'm so bad at it, but I say I'm so bad at it. I think I have improved immensely with advice and help from other people, because there are battles. They not very long and drawn out battles because, like I said, I don't enjoy it, but I do try to do my best. What is your favorite thing to write and your least favorite thing to write? I'd love to hear that too. I know there are authors on here, so I'd love to hear from you guys. I guess I'm gonna leave it at that. I hope this was just rambly nonsense, but I am also kind of plugging that my third book is coming out soon-ish. We're hoping. And I guess I'm plugging my own books a little bit, but truly it is just to connect and gain connection from you guys and hear what you like, what you don't like, and connect with other writers here, and just reach out. That's what this is all about. It's all about community, and it's fun to be a writer. It's fun. So anyway, I'll leave that there. I hope you guys have a great day. Remember that I love you and Jesus loves you way more. And I wish you well on your writer's journeys, and I wish you no writer's block at all. All right. Cheers, guys.